Today we're going to talk about a CMMP-M0 or CMMP-AS-M0, and the controller is going to talk Modbus TCP to a Siemens S7-1500 using the Festo FHPP library that Festo offers. I've got a couple projects, and we're just going to talk about the simple solution first, which is just executing the blocks and using the watch table to do this. So the library is downloaded from our website. The first thing worth mentioning is you go to the Festo website, click on support/downloads, and you would type in your controller, CMMP-AS and then M0. Now the problem is that Festo doesn't seem to list the Siemens library with this controller because it's typically related to like CAN Open, Ethernet IP, Profinet, things like that. I guess they forgot that the M0 has Modbus TCP capabilities. So if you want the library, you could simply type in the word Siemens in the same area here, and what will come up, the one that I'm going to be discussing today, is this 4.3 library here. And you would download that and go about your business. So in the when you've unzipped the library, you open the library up, and you basically go into this. Make sure you pick the version 14 library because it's got a version 13 service pack 1. It's got the archive. So make sure you select this one here. And when you get that, then you have the blocks, the data types, watch tables, things like that. So there's two important blocks to get things rolling right off the bat, and the things you need are these two blocks right here, the MB client and the buffer, and you need these two here. Not that I'm going to be using those today, but and then you need this control block here. So you basically drag those two over here, which is what I've done already. This one right here, this one, this one, this one, this one. And at that point you do a compile so that it recognizes all the blocks. The next step is to wait for the Siemens software like usual. I've already configured this, so I'm not going to do it step by step, but basically you drop in the, you drag this to the rung, you drop it in there, you enable the connection, do the CMMP-AS as the device type, because that's what I'm talking to, true for enable FPC. I'm not using this. You do the IP address of the controller you're going to be connected to. Connection ID is 1. Timeout is 2 seconds. And then this right here, the FML ref, I created this data block right here, this global data block, and added this CMMP ref with that data type, which is the data types that we brought in earlier. So the data types are right here. Basically all these data types right here were brought in. Which of these was right here? I didn't bring in the first two, sorry. And the buffer gets linked, this gets linked, then the reference gets tied in. So the next step is to simply bring in the, drag and drop this one to another rung, and you tie in the same reference because the reference coming from this MB client is being passed to and from this function block right here. And at that point you do a download. So I'm going to compile. maybe it's worth noting that there is nothing other than the PLC in the devices and networks. So if I open that up, it's just the PLC. The only important thing you need to kind of understand is that the Ethernet IP address of the PLC needs to be on the same, what's the right terminology? The same subnet as the, the same IP range. So first three digits, 192.168.1 dot, and then they have to be the same as the controller. So we've compiled, and you would download the hardware, of course, too. And I'm going to dump this in. While that's happening, I'm going to bring you to the FCT configuration tool. This needs to be configured, of course, prior to having a connection. In my case, the configuration, this is my configuration right here. I've got an M3 or a M0, CMMP-AS, the smallest controller, M0, and then your motor and axis would be whatever you have. It doesn't really matter in this case. The next thing is to make sure that you have selected Modbus TCP. I have chosen to do record sequence and positioning, but I don't have to. I just left that on. These are the two generic things here. You configure this area here, and hopefully you're familiar with FCT, because the gist of the rest of it is normal things. You set up your homing method. Let's see, the next thing you want to do is set up your field bus. So on the field bus tab, traditionally it's port 502 and timeout 2000, which matches the it's just going to let this continue here. So we're doing multitasking here. So timeout, the factory group, if you don't use this, then you're going to have to do a whole bunch of math in the processor that you don't really want to. So this basically just, 10 to the minus 2 just gives you an exponent, so that when you send the whole number across the bus, that it'll come through and be determined as a decimal. In this case here, I'm using the control area and the FPC area. And then for direct mode, you've got the base velocity, which is when calling direct mode moves from the PLC. The PLC has a 0 to 100% value, and that is a 0 to 100% of this base value. So right now, because I have 4,000 millimeters, if I specify 50 in the PLC, it'll be 50%, which will be 2,000 millimeters a second. And that's pretty much it for the PLC for this FCT configuration. You would, of course, download this to the drive, and because you're modifying communications and whatnot, you would typically cycle power to it, which can be done, restart the controller and away you go. Finish. Okay, so now we're online. Go online, I mean. It's a little too slow for us, but whatever. So, have all greens, and what I want to do is open up the watch table, which I also brought in from the libraries, and go online. So the libraries, you have watch tables right here. Where is it? So I dragged this in and then modified it to whatever. And Festo offers a book. So I went back to the website. I typed in my controller, which is M0, and now I'm on the technical data page. And what I was saying is that there's a FH Communication Field Bus book. Let's just resize this a little bit. But basically, There is a book that describes the protocol for all the different field buses. There's the Modbus that we're dealing with right now. So this is a must-read for you novice users. I'm not going to cover that for sure. It's too much to discuss. You would download that, of course, and look at that. In addition to that, the library that you downloaded, let's see where I put that here. So libraries, if you go into documentation, there is this, English version of the library. So this discusses all the blocks and how you would configure them. It's not very apparent here, but if I do a search for MB client, it talks about that there. Gives you some insight here. Oh yeah, here's another thing that's really important. So it tells you that you need a minimum of version 4.0 as far as the Modbus TCP client goes. If you don't have that, then you'll be shooting yourself in the foot. In my case here, what do I have here? I probably have like a 4.1. MB client. Where did it tell me to look here? It told me to look under. Where was it? Communications, other, Modbus. Come on. Yeah, so I've got a 4.1 in my settings here. And it discusses a couple other things in here, but that's about it. I'm just going to close this now. So if you open up the watch table here, we'll get online and we'll go online to this controller right here. So this here is the communication that's going back and forth to the PLC, and we'll do it right. And we just modified these 3 bits here. You need enable, stop, and halt to get the axis moving in some manner. The enable, stop, and halt are now on. So we have a homing valid, but I'm going to ask it to home again. So the home will go off and then come back on just like it did there, and reset that. And then our position value, our actual position is right here. It's coming back as a 0. I'm going to ask it to move here at, I don't know, let's go with 1%, just so maybe you can see something happening. And we're going to tell it in our FCT configuration, I have a factor group of -2. So basically, when I put a 1, 2, 3 in here, 0, 0, that means 123.00 millimeters. So I'll go 4.124. So I'm asking it to go to 444.12 millimeters. Turn the start task on, and you'll see it's moving right here. The velocity is 1. There's the feedback, and it'll keep going until you get to that. And when I go back to the FCT, there's the values I sent. Go to the operate tab. We're at 444.12 millimeters. And that is really it for the simple version of the project. You can manipulate other data here and play with it all you want. Thanks.